So we can get, I always forget to record and then people are like, you didn't record. Well, I'm busy. Okay. This is so fun. Okay. Well, Kristy, you're the star of our little Zoom chat here. We're so excited. Oh my gosh. Okay. Everybody already knows about you, but I have a little, you're just a very impressive person. And I have your little bio and I had to read it for everyone because it's just kind of amazing because of everything that you've accomplished, especially in the last few years. So everyone, if you didn't know already, Kristy is a New York Times bestselling author.
The other day for the camps. I'm on the.
Oh, let's mute. Muting you, love you all. So Kristy, New York Times bestselling author, USA Today, Publishers Weekly, of 9 books. Like, you're not old enough to have 9 books out. Let's be honest. You're crazy. And the best one that we all love and just cherish forever because we did our UpLit campaign is the Peachtree series. And it's becoming a series and you are co-writing and co-producing. Is that right? Oh, did I mute you?
That is right. No, okay. Sorry. I just need to unmute myself. That's right. I mean, fingers crossed, but it's going well. So hopefully we'll see some error one day.
So, but Kristy and her mom also run the blog, the design blog called Design Chic. And it's all about making your home beautiful. And you have the most lovely Instagram. So Kristy is a Tar Heel. So if you're North Carolina and you know the Tar Heels, she graduated from University of North Carolina and she got her degree in journalism and a master's, which is very cool, in multicultural and transnational literature. I don't even know what that means, but sounds fancy.
I was telling someone the other day that, like, in order to do that program, I had to take these tests and read books and then write essays. And I did it in Portuguese because that's what I had taken in college. And y'all, I can't even say hello in Portuguese. And it was only I guess it was 11 years ago. That's scary. That's really scary.
That's crazy.
Wait, someone says they have UNC. Aaron, I love it. I don't think you've made a serious mistake because
March Madness.
The Tar Heels can just pull things out that you can't even imagine. I think that was a good call. I mean, UNC basketball, all bets are off.
I feel like UNC is a good.
Gigi's a Tar Heel too.
Oh, that's so fun.
Great.
Oh, lived in NC. Oh,
y'all, this is great. I love it.
Okay, well, North Carolina is a beautiful place. Okay, last little bit. So Kristy is also the co-founder and co-host of Friends in Fiction. I'm sure you've heard of that podcast. They basically are taking over the podcast world of books and interviewing everyone. You guys are so much fun on there and so much fun to listen to, but that's with Mary Kay Andrews and Kristen Harmel and Patty Henry, who is so sweet. And they're all so sweet. Do you guys have the best time?
We have the best time. And what's so funny? So we just, we were the closing headline thing at the Savannah Book Festival a couple weeks ago. And the most common question that we get when we're out and about is are you guys really friends? Do you guys really like each other? And we're yes, we talk all day, every day. It's hilarious. And we're we couldn't fake this. This is not something that we could make up. We have such, and if we weren't, why would we do it?
Right. That's a lot of time to spend with someone that you don't genuinely like.
Right. It's a lot of time. I mean, because, it looks like we just pop on for an hour, but all of you guys know more than anyone in the world that people never really know what we're doing behind the scenes. So
Yeah. Well, you guys are always fun to watch and listen to, and you're all incredible people and authors. So it just makes sense. So The Wedding Veil, we've got our book, and I thought we'd just like kick it off and talk about The Wedding Veil. Everybody has their book. It's so fun to see everybody, and if we can,
Can we screenshot it?
Let me try and get everybody in the gallery.
Okay, wait, let me hold one.
Okay. I know there's a few of you who are not.
It's okay if you don't have your camera on. Like I feel that I would not have wanted to get like dressed for this at 8 at night either.
Oh, you guys are so cute. Okay, let's see if I can screenshot this. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, it didn't. There we go. Okay. Wait, hold it back up. Cheese. Yeah, there we go. I think that. Okay, let me get, we're back. So The Wedding Veil, so exciting. It comes out next Tuesday. We're so excited. I feel like we've been talking about this book for a very long time.
I know. We have been talking about it for a long time. We really have.
And I know that you're moving on to like the next book. Like your brain is like, you're on to the next, but we're still very in deep with this book. We're like,
well, I just wanted to say, first of all, like before we get started, thank you guys so much for everything that you do. Like, I cannot even tell you. I mean, you guys just are game changers in so many ways. I mean, one, obviously, like the obvious part of just getting the word out about books and like spreading your love for them, but just like, it is so like to have this book and like, it's in my head for 2 years and then to like put out in the world, it's so scary and like nerve wracking. And it feels like you guys just like take these books and you like love on them. And it's like the greatest feeling in the world when you like say something nice, or it's so great. Like it gives me so much confidence to be able to get out and on the road and talk about this book. So thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate you guys so much. And thank you, Megan, for putting all this together on your spring break.
Well, if there's any, cameos of my children,
that'd be great.
There are 4 of them. It is possible. The odds are very strong. But well, and I think I want to piggyback on what you said just about the UpLit Club in general. Like it's just so amazing to just see kind of the vision of what Ashley and I set out to do. She might be listening. She's like picking up kids and stuff from school, but just having this vision of how can we support authors in a way that also supports the bookstagrammers. And I think a lot has kind of gotten lost in the last probably 2 years as bookstagrammers have kind of ramped up of like this marketing world. And I think we've done a really good job. I mean, from my point of view of having, authors have that connection with readers and to have it both ways. I think it's been really good. And it helps when we're supporting amazing authors who have amazing books. So, I mean, it's easy.
That's nice. Well, thanks. Well, thank you. Do y'all have anything that you want to, did y'all have anything that you want to know?
Drop a question or comments in the little chat box on the side. But I wanted to hear about your tour. Can you tell us where you're going and when you're leaving and all of that stuff?
Yes. And the wanting to know everyone's questions is also selfish because I don't write a talk. I just get up and talk, which is scary for everyone. But that's what I like to do. So I always try to figure out before I leave, I'm like, okay, what does everyone want to know? What are they most interested in? And that's like how that kind of informs my talk. And then as I like move along, I'm like, okay, I've gotten this question 3 events in a row. I should probably add that to the talk or whatever. So it really helps me out. But so I'm leaving on Monday. I'm starting in my hometown of Salisbury, North Carolina, and we're having this like really awesome party. There is this town I'm in this town, this house in Salisbury, and it's nicknamed Little Biltmore. And they offered to host my launch party. And I've never done like a big launch party in my hometown because I feel like it's really nice for people to like come into the bookstore, because sometimes people will come in that don't frequent the bookstore necessarily, and it reminds them like, oh my gosh, we have the best bookstore here. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be great. And then from there, I mean, it's like a whirlwind. I usually go on tours that are a little bit longer. This one's about 3 weeks, which is not bad. And then there's like, I don't know, it's kind of like here and there after that, but it's shorter, but it's fuller, if that makes sense. So there are not a lot of days where I have like one event, like every day is like 2 events or 3 events or,
Wow.
so it's pretty packed, but I think it's going to be great. And it's a lot of luncheons. And I'm only in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Georgia for this first few weeks, just because as y'all can probably imagine, these last few books, like we've planned these huge tours and then like all over the country, and then COVID would be terrible, or it'd be terrible in these places, or my publisher would say like, okay, we just have to make like a blanket policy that we're not getting on an airplane, or you have to figure out like how to make it so that you're not just canceling some things and not the others. So this year I was like, you know what, for the last 2 tours, we've kind of made ourselves crazy. Let's just do a Southeast tour that I could drive the whole thing if I had to. And I don't have to, so that's good. I am flying a little bit this time. And everything's good right now. So I'm very, very happy about that. But yeah, so it's just the Southeast right now. So I hate to miss people not in the Southeast, but that was sort of a COVID thing. But I'm hoping in May, we're going to do a Friends in Fiction event in Ohio, which I think is going to be really fun. And then we haven't announced it yet, but I think we're going to do one in New Jersey also. And just be, all around. So I'm pretty excited about what's coming up and getting back out in the world. And I think I'm going to do something in New York in August. And anyway, so I'm excited to kind of get back out and about a little bit, and just keeping fingers crossed that all stays.
Let's just have like a nice chill rest of our life,
Yeah. Yes. I think we've earned our pandemic stripes.
Yeah, we've earned them. Mm-hmm. Okay. We have a few really quick questions on the side that I thought would be fun. So one, Vanessa says, can you see the chat bar?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. So I've been to the Biltmore house many times, and it is one of my favorite places. First, did you visit the Biltmore house when researching the book? This is a great question.
That's a great question. So I grew up just a couple hours from Asheville, and I had been there a lot of times, like growing up during my childhood. And obviously I always thought it was really cool. But in 2018, we were actually evacuating for a hurricane here. And we evacuated to Asheville, and our son was like 6, I guess. Is that right? Yeah, he was 6. And so he'd never been, and we were like, let's go to Biltmore. Let's take him. That'll be really fun. And we took him, and I don't know. It was like the first time, I don't know if it was like being a grown-up or being a mother or what it was, but I never really realized how young Edith Vanderbilt was when George died. And it really struck me. I was like, wow, he spent all these years building this house and then really barely even got to live there. And then she was left with this giant house that, yes, it's amazing and incredible. But, in 1914, you're a woman, you can't even vote, for heaven's sake. And like, you're left with not the resources that she would have thought she would have been left with, and like a whole lot of a house and a town and an estate to have to keep up. So I just was really interested in her and how she did that, and what that looked like for her, and then what it looked like for her daughter Cornelia when she inherited it, and all of that kind of stuff. So I went home, and how you're like at a gift shop at a place, and you go and you're like buying all these things, and you get home and you're like, I bought a pair of llama slippers that I'm never going to wear again. I don't know, you're like in a place and you're like, oh, this is so cool, I'm going to buy this and remember this trip. And you get home and you're like, this is not applicable to my life at all. But fortunately, I bought a lot of books about Biltmore, and I was just reading up a lot about her. And I thought, I want to read a novel about her. And I knew someone would have written a novel about her, of course. And I couldn't find one. And I was like, someone should write about her. Someone should write about her. But it truly was years later. Like a couple years later, or maybe 18 months later, I was the matron of honor in my cousin's wedding. And I was like putting a wedding veil on her head that like I had worn. And it was something that had been in my husband's family for a long time. And all these women had worn this wedding veil. And I was like, oh, I want to write a book about like a family heirloom wedding veil. And my agent said, well, you should write a book about a real wedding veil, like a real historical wedding veil. And just on a whim, I Googled Edith Vanderbilt wedding veil, and this story came up about this veil that Edith had worn and her sisters had worn and Cornelia wore, and then it disappeared. And I was like, well, that's the perfect story to tell. Like that is the perfect historical contemporary novel. Like it's just going to write itself, you know? That wasn't even your question. So sorry, that was like a really long answer, but the main point of all of this is, so
Hey,
what? What'd you say?
Oh,
Okay. But, so I pitched the book, sold the book, came home from tour. I had done this like whirlwind California tour in late February, early March. I came home March 9th, 2020 to start working on the wedding veil. And then we know what happened next and the world shut down. And I was like, I'm under contract for this book and I can't write this book. And I guess it was in April of 2020 was when we started Friends in Fiction. And I remember being on a Zoom with Mary Kay and Kristen and Patty and being like, you know, I pitched this idea for this historical novel, but I just don't know how I'm going to write it. And they were like, well, just see what you can get done. Like, surely the world's going to open back up. And so I spent months, you know, at home on my computer, reading everything on newspapers.com and the internet and the Biltmore website and every book that I could order and get in the mail. And by the time things started to open up a little bit, I had a first draft. And then at that point, I was able to go back to Biltmore. They had opened up like in a very small basis. And I could like go on tours and interview people and do all the things that I needed. But it was kind of great because I already had my story. Like I knew, you know, obviously I'm not writing a biography. I'm making up, you know, something hopefully plausible about these women's lives, but I wanted it to be as factual as possible. And I thought what I was really interested in was, you know, after George died, you know, until 1934, like that was kind of my story. And so I was able to go and like really fact check and figure out some little colorful elements that I felt like would make the story come to life a little bit more. So it was great.
Ooh, I love hearing all about that. And I think like reading her, I loved the Edith storyline. Like I was just like, I need more, but I loved, like, it just felt like so sweet and their relationship. And I was so sad. I mean, I knew George was going to die. That wasn't like a surprise, but you just like feel that like, and their daughter, I don't know. I love that. Just the storyline all the way through. It was so nice.
Well, it was a surprise to me, honestly. Like, I mean, just super briefly, I'll say this, that was not what I went in thinking that I was writing. I went in writing a marriage of convenience. You know, I was writing a rich, new moneyed man who needed a woman with a really old fancy name, you know, because that's what people did then. Like, that's what it was. And like, it, you know, his sisters wanted him with her, and it wasn't because they thought she was so great. It's because she was a dresser, you know, and a Stuyvesant and a Fish and like all these names that, you know, were from the Mayflower that you needed. And I thought that was the story that I was going to write. And when I started to do my research, I just thought, there is absolutely no way that this woman who built her life around change and people's rights and making the world a better place, there's no reason that she kept that house except for that man. Like there is no other explanation for that. And so, you know, if you've read any of my other books, I love a good love story. And so that was a real treat for me to be like, okay, I got my love story in the end, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, that's, any other woman would be like, see ya, big house, I'm out of here.
Right.
Okay, that one was a great question. There's so many, you guys are awesome. Okay, says, do you see yourself in any of the characters? I love the characters for different reasons and always wonder if authors see themselves in characters that they craft. And that was from Becca.
I know this sounds weird, and I think I always say this, but like, I think I always see myself in all of my characters, which is kind of weird. But in different ways. Like, I think the thing that was so interesting about Edith's character is that she was very much caught between two worlds. And I think sometimes we all find ourselves in those places where we're like kind of stuck and there's not really a great option. And maybe any choice that we make is kind of at odds with another one. Cornelia was probably the hardest for me to relate to. I don't know if everyone's read the book. Are we doing spoilers or are we not doing spoilers?
I said this was going to be spoiler free. I did.
Spoiler free. Okay, then I will not say anything.
Okay.
But if you haven't read it and you get to the end, you'll be like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I did relate to her because I feel like Cornelia was born into a life that she never asked for. And not that I don't mean it like that, but I can understand how a person could feel very trapped in a life that,
and yeah,
I mean,
all of that.
Yeah, when everyone's watching you and you kind of don't have any privacy. And I think that's something that, we're hearing more about right now. So that was kind of resonant, but she was harder for me to relate to with like some of the choices that she made in the end, but also, I kept thinking I was going to discover something about her. And that's the thing too, is like, I tried to make her character as sympathetic as I possibly could, but at the end of the day, she's a real person and I had to tell her real story. So, but I think the most she was really interesting for me to be able to write though, because she was so into numerology. And so it would be sort of like if you were writing someone who was really deeply Christian and you were like, okay, it's Good Friday. What would this day mean to them? But with numerology, it takes it to like the nth degree, because I could be like, today is March 15th. What does that mean in numerology? Like I could like set her like character actions based on what she would have been doing. So anyway, she was interesting. She was complicated. But she was probably the hardest for me to relate to. But then Babs and Julia, like, I don't know why I love writing these characters. Like
Babs.
Julia.
Babs was the best.
Yeah, Babs is my favorite.
So much.
Yeah, I love her too. I love her, and I loved writing her. And then, but I think the thing about Babs and Julia's relationship was just that, Julia had spent her life with Babs teaching her, and there kind of comes this critical moment where Julia actually starts to teach Babs some things about her life. Even though, she's young and some of her choices are probably not the best or whatever, but I think I like writing younger characters who can kind of make some mistakes and do some impulsive things. And, it's kind of, I wasn't like that. So I don't know, like maybe I'm like reliving my youth through Julia.
Maybe. I like that. A little insight to Kristy. I like it. Okay, let's see. Somebody asked why the original cover had to change.
Well, so, there was some question about like some trademark things and whether a likeness of Biltmore could be used on an actual photo of the house and things like that. And I think we probably could have worked it out, but it was one of those things that it would have been like tricky and expensive. And there was just some miscommunication at the beginning. And my publisher was sort of like, how important is this to you? And I was like, not important enough to like,
just
yeah. I mean, it was just one of those things that I thought, as long as we have a big, beautiful old house in the background, like I think we'll be okay. And we thought about just putting mountains, and we thought about, doing some other things, but I thought the house they found was really pretty. And I just thought, people who really know will know that that's not Biltmore.
I would say majority of people are like, oh, it's a Biltmore, and like not even.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that there's, when making covers of like real landmarks, like real things, that there's that tricky.
Yeah. But it was interesting because
I don't think about that. So
yeah, and most of the time there isn't. So I think it was, I don't know.
Biltmore? They're just
yeah.
like,
so they, and I mean, I get it. They're like really protective of their brand and all of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Again, I think we could have worked it out. It just, we were on a time crunch and they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, let's change the cover. Not worry.
Yeah, it's so slight. Like I don't even like, I had both images of the book and I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
It
So
looks great. So somebody asked, where in North Carolina will you be visiting? What stores? Did you say what bookstores?
oh gosh, a lot of them. Okay, so South Main Book Company. I know I'm going to Bookmarks in Winston-Salem. I'm going to Sunrise Books in High Point. I'm going to Quail Ridge in Raleigh. Where else in North Carolina? I can't remember off the top of my head, but my tour schedule is on KristyWoodsonHarvey.com. And if you click on like,
we'll send that
tour,
out. We'll put a little about it.
yeah, I'd love to see you guys.
You know, that would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, somebody said they loved Edith as a character. And side note, so this Erin, she said, I started this while pregnant with my third child, first girl, and I needed an E name because my fam is Erin, Eric the second, and then Elliot. And I considered for a moment Edith, but then she went with Ensley.
Oh, I love that.
That's cute.
That's beautiful.
A lot of people like Cornelia. She was definitely layered and complex. So fun. Okay, well, if anybody has any more.
I do feel like she was one of those characters too that like, even if you couldn't relate to her, like you could maybe understand her.
There's always that complicated person where you're like, I don't know your like reasonings of your choices, but I think it's definitely true in that era that I can't even imagine even calling Biltmore your home. Like,
right.
Well, like the whole Vanderbilt, just the whole dynasty is just like layered and grandma's involved and,
Right. It is very complicated. Gigi said to bring Tijuana barbecue sauce to Idaho.
Oh my goodness.
I will. I totally will.
Tijuana.
I am coming to Ohio, Amy, May 5th. I'm coming to Cleveland, to Cuyahoga County Library. Are you near there?
Ooh.
I'm looking at everyone's comments here now.
I'm in the Columbus area actually, but I could do that drive. May 5th, you said?
May 5th?
Okay.
No, May 4th.
Well,
May 4th.
May 4th. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm also going to be in North Carolina for Easter because my daughter lives in Fayetteville with her husband.
Oh.
But I'm sure you're not going to be doing any engagements that weekend, on Easter weekend.
I don't think I am that weekend. I'm actually flying out to Florida. I come home to like do Easter with my family. And then for the first time in years, I'm actually get to go on spring break with my family because we're doing a couple of events in Vero Beach and then we're doing like a vacation and then we're coming back home. So I'm very excited. I'm not going to be in DC this time.
Oh, Whitney said, how about Kentucky?
No.
No,
I'm hoping next year we're back to like big tours, but
I know. So what's next for Kristy?
Or not even next year. I mean, I'll have a paperback tour for the Wedding Veil. I don't know exactly when that will be, but sometime. And probably
paperbacks are usually like a year later, right? Or no? Is it?
Yeah, so it'll probably be like March-ish. And then I have a new book coming out next April. I don't know the pub date yet, but April sometime.
Is that a secret?
No, I can tell you about it. I mean, I don't know how articulately I'll tell you about it because I haven't really talked about it yet. But it's tentatively called The Summer of Songbirds. And it's about these three best friends from summer camp. And then one of their aunts who actually owns the summer camp. And it's not about COVID at all, but the camp obviously had to close during COVID summer and they just haven't been able to really get back on their feet. And so she decides that she's going to close the camp and these girls come together to, save the summer camp. And so that's kind of what's going on, like on the sort of perimeter of the story, but kind of like the meat is that two of our protagonists are Daphne and Lanier, and they're best friends from camp. And Daphne is an attorney, and she finds out something about Lanier's fiance that's protected by attorney-client privilege. And so she has to make a decision about whether she is going to not tell Lanier and, keep her job and support her 4-year-old son. She's a single mother, and let her walk down the aisle to him, knowing, what he did. Or if she's going to tell her and probably get disbarred and lose her way of supporting her son as a single mother. So, so that's kind of like the main situation going on. But, there's some good love stories in there, and it's a multi-generational story. And anyway, I'm finished with it, but I'm kind of like putting finishing touches on. So I'm super excited about it.
It sounds perfect. And like, what a perfect beach read.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I mean, I hope that's the plan. But it really, my son's summer camp was canceled, I guess, in everything runs together.
I know.
I guess it was summer of 2020. And so we went to family camp at like the camp that he would have gone to. And it's been there for like, 90 years or something.
Oh my goodness.
Old cabins on the water. And I was like, if these walls could talk,
Right. Oh,
yeah. So it just really inspired me. And I was like, I'm going to write a book about summer camp. And I loved summer camp. And again, like, it sounds like such a trite way to describe the book, because the book is not about summer camp. Like, the book is about these women and their relationships, but it's sort of set against the backdrop of summer camp. And I thought, what a great place to get to go, and what a great place to get to write about during kind of pandemic times. So it was great for me to get to kind of escape.
Well, and I think it's easy for everyone to kind of like, either they had their own experiences, or they just know what it kind of looks like, feels like, of that type of setting. I think that's easy for people to relate to, even if it's not like, let's go kayaking or canoe on the lake, whatever. It's like, we all know what that feeling is like about going to those camps.
Yeah. Totally.
Erin said, no, you have to find a way to tell her. Charades or something. Ooh, smart. So you're not like telling, you're not verbalizing it. You're like, he did something. That's a good.
That's a really good idea.
Charades, the game where you can't say anything and then you have to like act it out.
I wish we had this conversation like 6 months
ago.
Ago.
Can you write in that scene? She's like,
that would be pretty awesome. That'd be pretty awesome. Well, part of it is another one of their friends like doesn't really like the fiance, and she's like, I don't really like him. And they kind of both think she's still in love with this guy, but she sort of did something to him that was not good, and she thinks that he'll never forgive her. So there's a lot happening in this book. Like, I could talk about it for a really long time.
Hey, when characters have these intertwined drama lives, I'm here for it as a reader. So
there's a lot of intertwining drama lives.
More drama, please.
Yeah.
The more the better. Everyone's excited. Oh, this is a great question, because The Wedding Veil was your first historical fiction. So Jen said, how did it feel writing a more historical fiction novel after writing contemporary fiction? I love that you switched it up and also enjoy all the other books too.
Oh, thank you. It's fun. It's always scary to like do something new and different and think, are people going to like this? Are people going to like accept this from me? Because you do get into where like Kristy writes this book, and I'm actually surprised and grateful that my publisher was so on board, because it is a little bit of a switch. And, for them, they've put a lot of work into like branding me in a certain way. And we all hate that term, but that's the reality of it, but they were so like, yes, this is a great idea. Write whatever you want. Like, they were just very in on it. And actually for 2024, I have another historical contemporary that I'm, getting ready to start working on. It's not about a real person, which I think will make it like 98.5% easier. Because I feel like
no need for a bunch of research.
Yeah, like I'm joking. I think doing historical research on like a place and a time period is going to be very
Yeah.
different than doing it about these real people and trying to like get the facts of their life straight. So I'm very excited about that, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely different. And I'm used to just sitting.
I have a question then. So if it's not about a real person, then do you just concentrate on like getting the timeline right of like what history? So like, is history kind of?
Well, yeah. And it's not even that long ago. It's not even that long. So it's set in the 1940s and like 1940s, like old Key West.
Ooh.
And it's kind of based on like something that happened in my family. So
Ish. I'm just kidding.
I know. I can tell. I mean, I'll tell you. I've sold it already, so I mean, I might as well tell you. Just, it's between us. So
I know what happens in book club Zoom stays.
Yes. So when I wasn't born yet, but my grandmother's sister and her husband were both like really expert pilots, and they lived in Key West, and they died in a plane crash in their own plane. And it was like very odd and mysterious, like still kind of to this day, because they couldn't find the plane for a while, first of all. And then after they found it, they couldn't really find out what had happened to the plane. And so then they conjectured that maybe like my great uncle had like maybe had a heart attack or something, but my great aunt was also an expert pilot. And so they couldn't figure out like, what could have happened. And I never really thought about it. Like it was just one of those facts of my childhood. And then I'm not going to tell you because this will give the story away, but there was something that happened 2 days in a row. And it was like one of my family members mentioned something about it. And then the next day, another family member mentioned something about it. And it was just like this light bulb. And I was like, oh my God, like, what if it wasn't what we thought? What if it wasn't just a plane crash? Like, and so I don't think that's what really happened, but I thought that would make a good book. And then one of my like second cousins, who's their actual granddaughter, never knew them either, but she was saying something about, them living in Key West, and that her grandfather was a big fisherman, and that he knew Ernest Hemingway. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like, just this whole thing started like coming to life for me of like, what if I wrote this book set in like Key West in the 40s? And then in the present day, someone sort of trying to piece together what actually happened. And so I don't know, I don't have other like finer points yet, but I'm pretty excited about it.
I'm in it.
But that's one of the things I'm doing on our spring break.
Pre-order. That's what you're doing in spring break.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to Islamorada, and I was like, well, I'm going to sneak over to Key West and do some of my research. So a vacation is not like a real thing anymore.
I'm going to do research, laying on the beach, getting tan. Yeah. Why it's still cold for everyone else. Jeez. Oh, there should totally be a Hemingway cat in the book.
Oh my gosh, I love those cats. Yes.
So there you go. You need to have a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's excited for the summer camp book. And now we're already, you're busy. You've got all of this going on. So this is my question about, I love how you talk about the inspiration behind your books, because it just feels so like these natural, not forced ideas of like, like interests in your life. Like it just feels very like it's a natural gift. I think that your book ideas are just like, they just like flow so just naturally. And then you're able to write, these great stories. But I think it's really cool that you're grabbing from your family history though, because everybody's got something going on.
My family thinks so we'll see.
Oh man.
But I mean, I didn't even know them, so it's not obviously like it can't be them because I didn't know them at all. I have this little snapshot in my mind just from like hearing my grandmother talk about them and stuff of what I think they were like, but but yeah, my book ideas, Amy hit the nail on the head. They're super organic. Like I don't ever sit down and think, what am I going to write next? Like there's always, and this is a book I've been thinking about for years. Like I remember sitting on the beach with my old editor, and it was like, I was about to be finished with Peachtree Bluff. And I was like, these are like the 4 things I'm thinking about writing next. What do you think? And I had actually already written Feels Like Falling, and she had read it before Peachtree Bluff. And she was like, no. I want to put out Feels Like Falling next. And then as I was like putting the finishing touches on that, something happened that made me know I was like supposed to write Under the Southern Sky, like right then. So It usually, I mean, it is kind of interesting because usually there is one that just starts kind of like screaming at me, like, this is the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we had a couple more questions. What genre do you like to read?
Well, so that's, I mean, I think that's what makes this kind of organic too, is that, I mean, I love, contemporary women's fiction, but I also really love historical fiction. So I'd always thought that I would write a historical fiction novel. So it made sense for sure.
I love that. Okay. Let's just do a few more questions because now it's getting late for Kristy. She needs to go to bed. So Jen said, do you have a certain time of day that you do your best writing?
Definitely in the morning. And well, that's actually not true. I do my best writing late at night, but life just doesn't allow for late at night writing right now. I mean, I have to be up to take the child to school and things. So, so I try to do it in the morning because I feel like, I know you guys know how this is, like when you get up and your brain's kind of fresh and then the emails start coming in and the social media stuff. And you're like, you feel like, my husband calls it hacked. So like you get hacked, like your brain is like for the rest of the day. So
your head. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really try to like get the words on the page first thing in the morning before I'm like in everything else. And then I feel like that's a part of my day that I'm kind of in control of, and then the rest of the day, it's like, that's the part I'm putting out. The rest of the day, everything's coming at me, so it's like the push pull of it. But it's actually funny because I feel like the writing is the part of my job that takes the least time, which is so weird. Like you would think that would be the bulk of it, but it's really not.
That's impressive because I'm like, I can't even imagine. Like when I hold your book, I'm like, I don't think I've ever said this many words in my life. Like, how could I ever write that many?
Totally
I'm like,
could. You totally could.
I do talk a lot, so that's probably okay. One last question. Sandra says, after writing several wonderful books, what advice would you give your younger self? I love that question, Sandra.
That's such a good question. I mean, if I was literally giving advice to my younger self, I think it would be just don't be in such a hurry. And actually, that was some of the best advice I ever got. One of my creative writing professors met with me after I had written my first manuscript, and I never submitted it or anything like that. I actually wrote a couple manuscripts before I tried to get an agent, but I remember him saying to me, like, the worst thing that can happen to you is that you get published too soon. And I was like, no. Like, you don't understand. Like, I want to get published now. I want this to be my job. I want to, and he was like, yeah, but you put something out that's not your best work. And then that's what people remember you by. And I was like, oh, that's true. And I think it's natural. Like, I don't think there's anyone in the world or any author that would like look back at their first book and be like, that was a masterpiece. I mean, maybe some people, I mean, I don't know, but I guess maybe someone like me who writes a book a year and like has a lot of stories to tell and, that probably doesn't look back and it's like, oh, like I could have done a lot better. I think that's like a natural inclination, but I thought that was good advice. And it made me feel a little bit like, okay, it doesn't have to happen today. it could be in a few years. And I think it made me take a step back and be like, I don't even really know that this is a manuscript that I want to pitch. Like, I think I can do better than this. So it ended up being really good advice. And, but yeah, I'm still, but I'm like telling that to my younger self, but like my, like not younger self is still always in a hurry to,
Well, you have a lot of things going on all the time, but we're so excited for I can't wait to see everyone's posts for the wedding veil and see you traveling on tour. Are you going to be like doing stories and stuff? I mean, we want to see all of the things. Like, show us everything.
How it will.
We want to see all of it. Show us where you're going, what you're
Y'all
eating,
will be in there with me. It'll be great. If you're interested.
Does your mom go with you too?
Yeah. So actually it's funny because this tour is so like local, either my mom or my husband's gonna be with me almost the whole time, which is so great.
So are they kind of like your like ring out your stress, you're like sham wow? Are they like,
yes,
you're like everything's fine and on schedule and
yes. And like my mom is super organized and my husband is super like, he's like a doer. So like I am still like finishing my Instagram message, and he like has the luggage in the room and just checked him to the hotel and like gotten wine. I mean, like he's like, so it's great. And then and literally just having someone to drive you, especially the days where I'm in like 2 or 3 cities and they're far apart, or like, there's like interviews in between, and that's kind of stressful when you're trying to like navigate all that. So anyway, it'll be really great to have them with me.
I'm excited for you. Well, everyone, we're just so thankful you could come tonight. Let me put you on the gallery again, because you guys are just so wonderful and beautiful. And we're just so lucky to have such amazing, supportive bookstagrammers, and we're ready. The world is ready for this beautiful book.
Well, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I'm so grateful. And I mean, I just can't say it enough. I mean, y'all, I'm here for book number 9 because y'all, so thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're ready for just your whole career. It's taking off, and we're so excited for you.
Well, thank you guys.
All right, everyone, have a great night, and thanks for coming.
Sleep tight, everybody. Sleep tight, East Coasters. The rest of you still have some day left.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.